Good afternoon. We need to start this afternoon section, this first afternoon section. We are going to have a little change in our program, but starting with Ana Lúcia Jaramillo. She's going to talk about introduction of acquisition, innovation, and methodology in a business case. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoy your lunch as much as I did, and that I keep you awake for my short introduction to innovation procurement and the business case methodology, which was developed by Corvers and Vitreg in the context of the European Assistance for Innovation Procurement. So who is Corvers and Vitreg? What is innovation procurement? What is the business case methodology? And what can the EAFIP initiative offer you? So these are the questions that I'm going to answer in my presentation. So here's the team of Corvers. This is a Benelux firm based in the Netherlands that provides legal advice to contracting authorities in public procurement and innovation procurement, specifically intellectual property rights and contracting. We have partnerships with the E-Law department at Leiden University, with the University of Zaragoza in Spain, with the Jerónimos Academy of Data Science in the Netherlands, with the Maastricht School of Management in the Netherlands, where we have the Corvers chairs for innovation procurement. So what is innovation procurement? And when we talk about innovation procurement, we talk about innovation driven by the demand side, by the public sector. And according to the taxonomy and the European legal framework, we can see and define three specific procedures: pre-commercial procurement, public procurement of innovative solutions, and innovation partnerships. So what is each of these procedures? Pre-commercial procurement, or PCP, is the procurement or the purchase of research and development services. This is a procedure in competitive phases where technology vendors compete in the framework of a framework agreement and individual contracts that are providing the obligations for the technology vendors in the different stages. So these competitive phases are the solution design, the prototype development, and the testing of a limited volume of solutions. Ideally, at the end of the pre-commercial procurement, the PCP, according to the communication of 2007 of the European Commission, you will find at least 2 technology vendors that are testing their products. And once the PCP is concluded, the purchase of a commercialized and the deployment of the solutions need the start of a new tender procedure where other parties and other technology vendors can offer solutions according to a procedure that follow the European public procurement directives. It is important to mention that PCP falls outside of the scope of the European procurement directives, giving a lot more flexibility, and also in the sense that the WTO rules are not applicable, so there's more flexibility to incentivize research and development in Europe. While PPI, the Public Procurement of Innovative Solutions, falls under the scope of the European directives and is implemented through a procedure such as an open procedure, a competitive dialogue, or a procedure with negotiation. The innovation partnership is a procedure that bundles both the research and development phase with the commercialization phase. In this case, it's very important to note that there's literature and also some legal recommendations on behalf of the European Commission, in the sense that this is a procedure that is exceptional, that it has to be dealing with a unique need, and that all the benefits accrue to the contracting authority, unlike in the PCP, where the benefits and the risks are shared both by the contracting authorities and by the technology vendors. Also, in the case of innovation partnership, very much care should be taken into the compliance with the requirements and the conditions of the 2014 Research and Development and Innovation State Aid Framework. So how do we know if we need a PCP, a PPI, or an innovation partnership? And this is much related to the maturity of the technologies. What does it mean? We have been talking also here, in other speakers have mentioned the technology readiness levels. So here we see the technology readiness levels which originally were developed by the NASA, and technology readiness levels from 1 to 9 can be related also to the phases of PCP and to PPI. Here you see that pre-commercial procurement would start from technology readiness level 3, that is experimental proof of concept, until technology readiness level 8, the system completely qualified and tested. And the procurement of the innovative solutions will deal with technology readiness levels of 8 or 9 for the commercialization of the product, service, and quantity production, customization, adaptation, etc. We'll see that the technology readiness levels can also be identified by the type of publications, patents, or standards that can be found. For example, if we have a technology readiness level from 1 to 2, you will have fundamental research. In the case of technology readiness levels 6, 7, we will have patents, and the ones on 8 and 9 will already have products and services available and standards being developed. So this is, in short, the way in which we identify which procedure related to the maturity of the technology and the technology readiness levels. So how do we identify these technology readiness levels from the perspective of the contracting authorities? And here is how the business case methodology can be very useful for contracting authorities. This methodology that has been developed by Vitrec, the sister company of Corvers, that it works specifically on the economics of procurement, and we have done this in the framework of the EAFIP initiative of the European Commission. Here I summarize the 5 main steps of the methodology, which is the needs identification and assessment that can be done by using different techniques, but mainly is identifying the problems and the challenges that the contracting authority have in the face of the need to improve the public services, basically. Once the need identification has been done and translated into functionalities, into function-based requirements, there are keywords which would be analyzed for a prior art analysis or state-of-the-art analysis and IPR search, the search of patents, that we normally do using intelligent platforms like IPlytics, for example, to see if there are patents available, if there are standards available, and which are the owners of these patents, companies, research institutions, etc. The third step in the business case methodology is to analyze the standards to see what is the level of consensus, the degrees of consensus on this landscape of standards. And when we collect all of this information, we challenge the findings with the market. So we ask the market in an open market consultation to see what is real, what is possible to be achieved, whether the budget is real, whether the time that has been set for the procurement is correct, etc. And with the results of the market consultation, there are value calculations that are being done as a cost-benefits analysis, and the decision of the trajectory that has to be taken, whether a PCP should be done, whether a PPI should be followed. And that's, in short, in honor of the time, the business case methodology. So I mentioned that this methodology was developed in the context of the European Assistance for Innovation Procurement. This is an initiative of the European Commission that was launched firstly in 2015 until 2018 and has been launched again in 2019 to provide support to contracting authorities who are willing to implement innovation procurements in the future, both PCP and PPI. And what does the assistant cover? The assistant covers scoping and identifying need, a procurement need that can be tackled with an ICT solution, for example, related to artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, augmented reality, blockchains. The assistant also covers preparing and conducting an EU-wide published open market consultation or drafting tender documents, launching an EU-wide published call for tender, answering questions from the technology vendors or tenderers at any time during the process, and the signature of contracts with selected vendors, taking into account the relevant provisions under European and national legislation governing public procurement. If there are contracting authorities interested in applying for this assistance, we encourage them to apply by filling in a questionnaire that can be found following this link. This initiative has also the support of a legal network. We have experts in the 28 member states who can provide assistance also at a national level and national legislation. Well, and thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. We are now moving on to the second presentation, which will be presented by Enar Gomes she's from the University of Valladolid and is talking about a project, H2020, which is called Vulcan. Yes, it's integrated in the project. Your presentation. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for the invitation of the organizers. My name is Enar Olmedo, and I come from CIDAUT. CIDAUT is a research center. It's located in Spain, in Valladolid. So in this case, in order not to get you asleep, because we have just had lunch, I'll try to make something interesting. And I'd like to talk about a specific project development that we have in relation with strategies of powertrain based on hydrogen technologies. So, I'm not sure if this is working. Okay. My presentation is going to have three main points. The first one is I would like to introduce CIDAUT, my research center. I would like to talk about the experience that we have in hydrogen technologies, and finally talk about this powertrain project that we have been working in based on hydrogen. So, who we are? CIDAUT is a foundation, it's a private research center. We are located in Valladolid. Valladolid is 200 kilometers far from Madrid, and we are specifically located in Mobilidade, with a different site in another village that is Mojarros. As research center, our technological activities are mainly focused on development and innovation in transport and energy sectors. We were founded in 1993, a long time ago, and we are recognized boldly in national and international projects. As I told you before, we're a non-profit private foundation recognized as technological center focused on transport and energy. Here are some figures that I would like to give you. We have more than 400 clients, industrial clients. We are focused on industry mainly, not in basic research, more in industry and pilot demonstrations. We are more or less around 174 researchers. Different sites, mainly we are located in Spain, but we have two different sites in Germany and in Mexico, and with more than 15 companies technological based. There in the technological park where we are located, we have different buildings, and that buildings, both for transport and energy projects located there, are focused on the different activities that we have. It's not specifically transport and energy. We have an important area on materials, on simulation, but all the activities are related with transport and energy. Okay, here, during all the day, we have been talking about hydrogen, and as the European Commission and the FCH has been setting in the last roadmap, the hydrogen has 7 different key role points in order to enable this renewable energy system with the purpose of decarbonize different uses: transport, heating buildings, industry, and feedstocks. So this point is a very, very good start point in order to decarbonize the European Commission. So, we, as research center, we focus on that decarbonization uses, and we are our strong knowledge, our experience is focused on production and hydrogen uses. So what we do in production, we are mainly focused on reforming processes, fossil fuels and renewable uses, fossil fuels like diesel or methane or natural gas, bioethanol. We work strongly in electrolysis and in thermochemical cycles too. And related with hydrogen uses, we have been developing a lot of projects related with transportation. One of these projects related with transport is a tram based on hydrogen that I'm going to talk to you now in the next slides. We have been working in security and hydrogen sensors and AutoSoft. Relating with heating and power for building, we have been adapting residential demands and coupling with renewable and fossil resources in order to integrate different technologies. And the last application, the last use of hydrogen, we have been intensively working in the industry field with the combustion of mixtures with hydrogen and other different gases. In this sense, now we are involved in a European project called Volcano that tries to explain the simulation between the different mixtures of hydrogen and other of gases, really interesting in order to use it and study the good mixture of them. So one of these uses of the hydrogen is the transport. So in this sense, one case study, just an application that we have been working in, is the determination of the size, the sizing, and the optimum operating strategies of powertrain based on hydrogen in a tram. So the objective of the project was the integration of a hybrid powertrain based on fuel cell in order to operate in a line of a tram, and it was the first prototype in Europe. I think it was in 2012. So the specifications for this project tries to convert the vehicle specifications and the truck specification. It was really important, the performance of the vehicle, the acceleration, the speed, and relating with the truck, the length and the profile, the slope, the curvature, and the number of daily trips that it was necessary to do with this tram. So what we have to do, we have to model the behavior of the different technologies that were integrated into the tram. It was integrated fuel cell, batteries, supercaps, and we had the grid in order to charge the batteries. So all of these devices, all of these technologies were integrated by DC bus, a bus of direct current, in order to establish the control and to give the energy and the power to the engine of the tram. So the main activity was to model this behavior. So we have two inputs. The first one was the hydrogen train power, and the other input was the model of the different units that integrate the complete tram in order to size the power plant. So we had to use the characterization of the fuel cell with the different curves of operation. We had the characterization of the battery in order to include this information into the model, and the supercapacitors, supercaps characterization to be included in the model too. With all this information, we could modelize the behavior and the different aspects and the different responses in different situations of the truck. Here you can see in the upper graph an accelerating results of the model and braking results, and the behavior of the different elements, the supercap, the fuel cell, and the batteries during the trips. So these are the results of the model. With these results that integrate the characterization and the quantity and the fuel, the truck and the vehicle characterization, we size the power plant complete. So the power plant was had two fuel cells, a battery, a supercap, and a final hydrogen storage of 50 liters of compressed hydrogen and the bus. All these units were integrated with management and control systems in order to synchronize the best solution and the best situation for all the devices included into the tram. In this picture, you can see the distribution of the different elements, the hydrogen tanks and the batteries that were in different points of the tram in order to equilibrate the weight of the wagon, and the different supercaps and the reactors. And here in this picture, you can see where is the fuel cell located. So with all this distribution, finally all of them were integrated in a real application. So it was just the model or the distribution in the paper. They were included in a real wagon, and they were distributed in this way. You can see the supercaps, the fuel cell and the hydrogen storage system. And with all these hydrogen technologies integrated, we made some real tests in a truck, in a, I don't know, about 200 meters of track. So here you can see some results. This is just an example of how they respond, both motors, the motor, the battery and the fuel cell. This is the situation of an accelerating point. Start to 19 seconds of accelerating. So this is the result of the model, and this is the real tests that were carried out. So this is important because it demonstrates that it is possible to integrate different batteries in a train application. That here in this environment it fits perfect. I prepared the presentation without knowing that I would be with a train here. So that's a demonstration of it's possible to integrate all of them. So this is a picture of the real wagon. So it was the first hydrogen project in Europe, as I told you before, with 120 kilowatts of power, with 2 fuel cells of 24 kilowatts hydrogenic and 75 kilowatts of supercaps, and it's just an example. So thanks for your attention. I hope interesting to you.
Next presentation is from Siemens, Portugal, Rogério Gomes, and he's talking about sustainable mobility application to train transportation in Portugal. Okay.
Ora, muito boa tarde. Obrigado pelo convite por estar aqui nesta casa, cheia de história, ainda por cima enquanto ferroviário, que é próxima. Eu sou responsável pela área de negócio de material circulante da Siemens, inserida numa companhia estratégica da Siemens Mobility, fazendo parte da organização da Siemens enquanto um todo, opera enquanto empresa independente. A Siemens Mobility tem já uma longa história. Portanto, em 1876 apresentámos ao mundo o primeiro veículo ferroviário elétrico, na altura um pequeno carris que andava a circular na Feira Mundial. E desde então foi sempre um longo caminho de inovação que nos levou hoje a ter vários sistemas que varrem desde a sinalização ferroviária, que permite atualmente operar veículos de metro sem condutor. Na área do material circulante, desde a apresentação desse pequeno veículo em 1876, hoje temos um vasto portfólio, vai desde comboios de alta velocidade, métodos ligeiros, locomotivas, regionais de passageiros, and so on, muito baseados na digitalização. Hoje podemos dizer que são computadores sobre carril, que transportam pessoas e mercadorias também. E é este caminho de inovação, e o tema é necessariamente inovação, que me leva então a este assunto que estamos aqui a falar. Perante um cenário atual, onde, como já foi dito anteriormente, há uma grande percentagem de rede ferroviária europeia que ainda não está eletrificada, alguma dela mista, portanto não estamos a falar de linhas que não estão totalmente eletrificadas, há linhas que estão parcialmente eletrificadas. Há também um envelhecimento de material circulante a diesel que vai necessitar de ser substituído, ao mesmo tempo que assistimos, do outro lado, a um aumento do preço do combustível e a restrições ao nível das emissões poluentes também. E é com estas variáveis que é preciso trabalhar. A Siemens olha para todo este cenário e pensou em desenvolver uma plataforma que dê resposta, ou que tenta dar resposta, a todos estes problemas. Quando falamos em soluções híbridas, é preciso ter em consciência duas situações distintas. Uma delas são precisos veículos ferroviários capazes de percorrer nas linhas que existem atualmente eletrificadas, mas que sejam também capazes de fazer, porque há pequenos troços, 20, 30, 40 km, que não estão eletrificados ainda, mas que os que estão antes estão eletrificados. E então, o elemento mais eficiente é, efetivamente, o comboio elétrico. Ele tem que ser capaz de percorrer essa linha com catenária, mas depois, chegando a um local onde ela não existe, de ultrapassar esse pequeno troço. E para isso temos solução veículo elétrico auxiliado a baterias de tração, para poder subir esses pequenos troços, ou last mile. Para distâncias mais compridas, a bateria não é, efetivamente, a solução, e aí temos que recorrer à solução de hidrogênio. Fazer dois veículos distintos, cada um para a sua tecnologia, também não era solução. Iria fragmentar o portfólio. E então o que é que pensámos fazer? Vamos criar um único veículo, mas que possibilite, em função da necessidade do cliente, adotar ou uma tecnologia a baterias ou a solução a hidrogênio. Uma coisa muito importante quando se pensa em desenvolver um produto destes é: ele nunca pode ser pior do que a solução que existe anterior. Ou seja, ele não pode ter menos performance do que uma solução a diesel. Se ele tiver esse tipo de performance inferior, depois no final o cliente também não vai querer, sim, mas depois também não percebe. E então isso foi também uma prioridade no desenvolvimento. Esta plataforma, que chamamos Mireu Plus, é necessariamente uma plataforma flexível, como já expliquei atrás, mas também vai acarretar com ela um total cost of ownership reduzido. Não só a manutenção é facilitada, mas necessariamente vai ser energeticamente mais eficiente, e é desse o tema que estamos aqui a falar, portanto teria que o ser. E pronto, e ao nível da performance, estamos a falar de veículos que, comparativamente a um diesel, se comportam superior. Este produto que estamos a falar, Mireu Plus, é o nome dele, portanto, aceita dois tipos de configuração. Uma configuração a bateria que permite autonomias em circulação unicamente exclusiva a bateria até 120 km, com velocidades que podem ir até 140 a 160 a hora. Lá está, estamos a falar de performances equivalentes a um comboio elétrico convencional. Ou então uma solução a hidrogênio que permite fazer autonomias até 1000 km e também com velocidades de 140 a 160 km a hora. Portanto, mais uma vez, equivalente a um comboio elétrico. É nessa solução que acreditamos e essa solução que temos estado a vindo a trabalhar. Aqui apenas para dar nota da disposição dos equipamentos no veículo. Portanto, vemos que são dois veículos exatamente iguais. Enquanto que o veículo híbrido da bateria dispõe das baterias quer no tejadilho do comboio, quer no seu leito, na solução a hidrogênio, todos os equipamentos estão dispostos apenas no tejadilho do veículo. A Siemens, em todo o seu portfólio, portanto, não apenas na área da mobilidade, mas na área da geração de energia and so on, conseguimos trazer soluções que permitam, eu vou abusar da expressão, trazer o vento às rodas do comboio ou trazer o sol às rodas do comboio. Toda esta facilidade, toda esta necessidade de converter captar energia, transformá-la e depois trazê-la até aos veículos, temos soluções em portfólio que são capazes de dar resposta a isso. Indo rapidamente para o calendário, e porque estou realmente a ser rápido, no que respeita a comboio e baterias, portanto, esse produto já existe, está disponível comercialmente, está disponível desde o final de 2018, portanto, se houver aí alguém que queira comprar um comboio de baterias, podem-me telefonar. Relativamente à solução a hidrogênio, ela está em desenvolvimento, mas também contamos que 2020, por aí, 2021, que já tínhamos qualquer coisa disponível para mostrar. Para terminar, uma imagem de um comboio que tivemos em exposição em setembro passado, na feira ferroviária em Berlim, chamada Inotrans. É um comboio que está hoje ao serviço, é um híbrido a bateria, é o bebê que o está a utilizar neste momento e corresponde a uma das soluções que falei lá atrás. Muito obrigado.
Okay, thank you very much for this very interesting presentation from Siemens. We are now to the last presentation of this section, which will be presented by Jacques Schmitz from Netherlands, and he's talking about the Groningen city.
Thank you for inviting me. For those who are from the Netherlands, my name is Jacques Schuit. But anyone not from the Netherlands, I don't suppose you can pronounce that name. It is on the screen. I have some slides about the situation in Groningen. In Groningen we tried to introduce hydrogen a few years ago. And what I show you here is a photograph in which you can see the total system we use to power our cars. On top of the photograph you see the sun. Under the sun you see the solar panels catching the sun's light, producing electricity. The electricity goes into the local electrolyzer, which fills up the hydrogen storage, and then you can tank your car. This is a municipal filling station. It's not publicly available. We only use it for our own cars and those who tend to visit us. But this is how we started hydrogen in Groningen, with our own temporary filling station and buying cars and other vehicles. Yeah, can I go to the next one? Oh, okay, thank you very much. It started all with a big scheme, the ambition of the region. Groningen is located in the northern part of the Netherlands, and with our local governments from the provinces of Groningen, Friesland and Drenthe, we drafted a plan for the northern Netherlands hydrogen valley. We think we are the hydrogen valley of Europe. And in this scheme you see different possibilities we can do with hydrogen. First of all, you notice that a lot of electricity will be coming into our region from the North Sea and around. We have a direct connection with the Norwegian system, meaning we can import hydropower from Norway. We are busy connecting to the Danish system. The cable is there and the connection is almost ready. So we can import power from the wind from Denmark, and then the North Sea will be filled up with wind turbines. There is a big scheme in the Netherlands just started, and the first power plant from wind is connected to the northern part of the Netherlands. So we have a lot of wind from the North Sea coming in, and we have local wind turbines and solar farms. So there is electricity, and there is renewable electricity. The next thing we have available is a lot of natural gas pipelines going from Groningen to other parts of the country and to Germany and Belgium. And this system will become more and more empty the coming years because natural gas production from Groningen is slowing down and will be terminated between 2025 and 2030. So the pipelines will be empty, and the natural gas company is already trying to prove these pipelines can be reused for hydrogen. So we have hydrogen transportation possibilities, and we have markets for hydrogen. In this region, there is a lot of industry producing hydrogen already and using hydrogen. So we have a chemical industry capable of producing and using hydrogen. And then we have, like some other colleagues presented, problems with the trains, because a lot of tracks in the Netherlands are electrified. Only in the northern part we have a lot of not electrified tracks. So we are also looking very ambitious to the trains, but that's the future. What we have at this moment is in our city, we are focusing on transportation. So we introduce buses, we introduce garbage trucks and all kinds of vehicles operating in our inner city, because, and that's our policies, we have a roadmap published last year, which we have the ambition to be a carbon neutral municipality in 2035. We have a zero emission city logistics plan for 2025. We have zero emission public transport ambition in 2020, meaning that next year all the public transport buses will be zero emission. There was a tender last year, and the existing bus company won the tender and intends to introduce 20 hydrogen buses along with a lot of full electric buses. So hydrogen is part of all these ambitions, and because of that we joined a lot of European programs to get these hydrogen vehicles. We are part of JIVE 2, meaning that 20 hydrogen buses will be there in 2020. We've been also partner, not a partner, but our bus company was a partner in the high velocity. It was mentioned this morning, so we have already 2 buses on hydrogen in our city running around. We are partner of Revive, meaning that there are 2 garbage trucks which are now collecting garbage in the city running on hydrogen. We are partner of Hightech 2, where there are a different number of vehicles and where the filling station was paid for partly. And we are now a partner in Hector, which just started in January, which will add another hydrogen garbage truck to our collection. And the last one, we joined the call for the Hydrogen Valley from the FCH joint undertaking, and we hope to show that we are the Hydrogen Valley of Europe, and we shall see how the FCH EU will respond to that. Then I have a picture with some of our vehicles, which you can see over here. Most of them are in red, because red is the color of our city. The other ones are from other companies or other ownership than our own municipality. You see our garbage truck. You see in the middle, on the upper line, a street sweeper. Then a Hyundai iX35. You see one of the 2 hydrogen buses from the high velocity. And then in the middle, that is our city hall, is in front of them again a street sweeper. The other one is a street scooter, which is used by our cleaning department. And the most special one is the green one, which is not owned by the municipality, but with more or less a publicity stunt from one of the companies operating in our city. It's Holthausen. They do a lot of work with us, amongst others, the refueling station developed by them, but they also refurbish part of our vehicles. So they take the diesel engine out, put an electrical engine in, put some batteries in, put a fuel cell in, and a tank for hydrogen, and then you have a diesel truck which is converted to a hydrogen truck. But that wasn't enough for them. They also like to make some publicity, so they bought a Tesla, and in the trunk they built in a hydrogen tank, and they added a fuel cell. And now they call it a Tesla, and they have a range of more than 1,000 kilometers. I don't know where you could use it, but it's good for publicity, and they have caught on a lot of publicity with this car and with the other refurbished equipment. So that's the vehicles running around in our city center, and we hope that all the vehicles running around in the city center will be either hydrogen or electric drive by 2025. And as a city government, we have to give the good example. Thank you for your attention.
So, now I would like to call to the stage Marcos Nogueira, my colleague at Hidrogénio and also head of the European office, Mrs. Maria José Teixeira from the museum, Mr. Jacinto Lopes, who is the president of the Meditate Agency and also from the municipality of Ferreira do Zezer, Mr. Miguel Pombeiro, first secretary of the region of Meditejo, and last but not least, and thanks for coming, Mr. Nicholas Rowley from the Hydrogen Europe Agency. Okay, sorry, Ricardo advised me that we still have a presentation, but I will ask people to stay here because it would be not nice to go again at the seat. But nevertheless, I invite Caetano Bas to come and make the presentation. So sorry. Okay, it's Jorge Pinto, he's the CEO from Caetano Bas, and I'm so sorry. Se não fosse o Ricardo, estava muito atento.
Foi. So I'll do it in English. Good afternoon. Sorry for this misunderstood. I'd just like to introduce what we are doing about hydrogen bus, and just to get you an overview of our strategy also. So we are the oldest bus manufacturer in Portugal. We made in 2016 70 years, and we start to look to the changes on mobility in 2010. This because Portugal was under the debt crisis, and it was necessary for our company and our industry to find alternatives. So electric mobility, because hydrogen is electric mobility as we see it, came with a very strong option for the company. So we have remade our mission and vision to accommodate this new policy, and to also transfer to our teams what were our challenge and our direction. On our vision, since the beginning, as we are in average European terms a medium company, we did not have all resources to make this, to achieve these modifications and this challenge. So we made the option for a competence shared model, where we bring to us some expert partners in different fields of the electric mobility vehicle, of the bus. So what I told you before, 70 years of innovation, we want to join the capital we have, our knowledge in making bus together with the new technologies, and come with new mobility solutions, without forgetting that we have all this cumulated experience. We know our customers, we know different transport systems, we know what are their expectations. To support this growth, we made a capital alliance with Mitsui, the Japanese Mitsui, and we have made a business plan where you can see on the slide the blue area is our traditional business that we assume that will stay more or less stable in terms of volume and output. And the green area is where we want to grow together, so Caetano and Mitsui, and is always in electric mobility, starting by airport service buses, electrics, and then by city bus, also on electric city buses, being that battery or fuel cells. So these were the first three products we introduced. We introduced first the airport bus in 2013, and now the best case we have is Stuttgart Airport, that is 100% electric fleet and 100% a Caetano fleet, Caetano Cobos fleet. So this was the first airport that has no buses with thermal engines anymore. And this for us, it was the launch customer, the customer that allow us to introduce electric mobility solutions. Then in 2016 we launched our battery bus. We have already running in several cities here in Portugal, and we just won 2 days ago our first international tender. And we have also chassis production. We want to provide electric chassis as a solution, mainly outside Europe, for countries that are also moving on direction of zero emissions, but they don't have technology available. So let's talk now about alternative energy solutions. I did not consider natural gas because natural gas, and I recognize natural gas for mobility, is a step forward regarding diesel buses in terms of dirt emissions, but is not CO2, direct CO2-free emission vehicles. I think we are all confronted with this challenge. We have up to now diesel. Diesel is a good energy system. The only problem is that it is harmful for our world. So we have to replace this 40 liters tank on a bus, that is the quantity of diesel you need to make 100 kilometers, and corresponds roughly to 400 kilowatt hours with an alternative storage system. As alternative storage systems, we have right now two options, is batteries or hydrogen. Batteries have a very small energy storage capacity regarding the ratio between weight, volume and energy, and for the same 100 kilometers I need roughly about 1.8 tons of batteries. What we also can see is that batteries is the more efficient solution in terms of energy efficiency. I only need 150 kilowatt hours to make the same what I do with 400 kilowatt hours of diesel. And finally, is now growing up the possibility of hydrogen. For the same 100 kilometers, I need about 10 kilos of hydrogen on a city bus, a standard 12-meter city bus. And this is more or less roughly 300 kilowatt hours. This also shows that hydrogen is much less efficient than batteries, because batteries is only electric energy since the plug until the motor. Sorry, I have to hurry up. But hydrogen is more energy efficient than diesel. The other problem is the refueling time. We are comfortable when we go with a diesel or petrol car, and after 2 or 3 minutes we have to fill the tank. So for the same energy capacity I need about 2 to 3 hours if I use batteries, but with hydrogen I'm nearly at the level of diesel. So we think hydrogen is really an option for the future zero-emission fleets of the European cities, and we are finalizing now the launch of the first hydrogen city bus of Catano, that we want to be, as he said in our logo, a compact vehicle, a simple vehicle to use, with some values that we translate in house. We should operate an hydrogen bus exactly the same way we operate electric battery vehicle. So this was possible due to the cooperation between us and Toyota. We signed a memorandum or an agreement 1 year in October last year, and Toyota is supporting us by supplying the fuel cell stack and supplying us some knowledge in terms of production of the unit and safety, because they already went through these steps. This allow us to shorten the time to market. The fuel cell stack we are using is exactly the same fuel cell stack of the Mirai, the Toyota Hidrogénio car. So our vehicle will have two versions to start: 10.7, 12 meters, right-hand drive, left-hand drive. As a Siemens motor of 160 kilowatts, tanks of 37.5 kilos at 350 bars. This was an option that we have then. A lithium battery to protect and smooth the output of the hydrogen cell with 45 kilowatt hours, and 350 kilometers of autonomy, and we expect a refuel time between 8 to 10 minutes. This is the first prototype. It's right-hand drive with London specification. We want also to introduce the vehicle in UK, where we have a strong basis, and the standard 12 meters for the European continental market, if you want. That is the standard. There are nothing inside the bus. All the fuel cell stack, the battery, all the system, energy systems will be on the roof. This will be a normal interior of a normal low-floor city bus. And this is our development calendar with main milestones since we start with electric mobility. Decision was in 2010. Then we introduced the e-cobbles. In 2014 was the first orders. Then we have introduced in 2016 the battery bus, and we are going to introduce now in this year. We are going to launch the hydrogen bus, and we'll start the production next year. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. Thank you for being there. And now, before starting the panel, which is Visions of the Future, I would like to invite Mr. Bernardo Campos, representing the regional authority, so Central Regional Authority, to join us at the panel Visions for the Future.
Good afternoon. I'm Marcos Nogueira. This is the final panel, so we named it Visions for the Future in the sense that we have here our leaders, and that's also the moment to do a wrap-up of what we have discussed this morning. But before that, I have some acknowledgement to do. So I would like to be thankful for our colleagues from the Agency of Médio Tejo and also from Área who organized this event. Especially a word for my colleague Camila Olchovitz, and you were all in touch with her. She was inviting everybody and putting us together. And a very, very, very big thank you for Ricardo is here. And indeed, it's not possible to do so well without great leaders, and Ricardo is the director of the Energy Agency of Médio Tejo here, and is doing an amazing job, as we have seen today. So thank you, Ricardo, so much. This is the final panel about future. And there is no future if we can't be proud of our leaders. And indeed, we are proud of our leaders here. So we have the president of the board for the Energy Agency, Mr. Jacinto Lopes. And also I would say that's a little bit of a joke, but that's like the prime minister for the region, for the province. So the secretary, the first secretary for the province, that's Vitor Pombeiro. And also we have represented the regional authority or the managing authority for all center of Portugal, in the middle. And also the person leading this wonderful idea of the museum, and Maria José Teixeira, we created this concept of the National Railway Museum. And that's, can you believe that it was really a fight to have everything here and to have this nice place and to make it open. And that's amazing that we are in a museum talking about future. So that's really something. Thank you. And we have the director of Hydrogen Europe. Hydrogen Europe is the association at European level aggregating all the actors and all the agents, making the change and making innovation in hydrogen. And indeed, Europe has done a lot in hydrogen. So we are leaders worldwide in very good deal of technologies. And Hydrogen Europe is the association of the European entity with these entities inside. So thank you for, you are today in another event at the same time, and also we do, because in Lisbon there is the European Maritime Days, and we are organizing a side event somehow, but we managed to be here together. And you are doing a presentation today, you managed to be here, thank you so much for, and you are going to do like the final presentation, and after we are here for questions to the public. And I took some figures to talk about future, talking about the present. There are 6,300 fuel cell cars, hydrogen cars in California. That's quite something. Germany launched the first hydrogen train last year. South Korea is planning to have 100,000 fuel cell cars, hydrogen cars in 2025. The French government set a target for the hydrogen use in industry around 40%. And there is a global fleet by now of fuel cell vehicles of 10,000. So we are talking about future in the sense that we are talking about a technology that is an emerging technology. So we are really in that position of bringing something new, and as a society we are facing the triple challenge. So climate, of course, biodiversity, energy, we need to do the most we can from the best and emerging technologies, and one of those is hydrogen. And we know the limitations of electric mobility based on batteries. Hydrogen is very much an alternative to bring surplus of renewable energy, for instance, during the night time, to mobility. And that very simple idea was the first idea for this event. When we start putting it together, was that in this region of Médio Tejo and in most of the regions of our partners from Spain, we have a surplus of energy, renewable energy, that is not used. That's a pity. And that's also something limited to go further and to go beyond on investing in renewable energy. So we need to find new uses for that renewable energy, possibly for mobility and transportation. And hydrogen is vital to make that connection from surplus of renewable energy into mobility, low carbon mobility. So that's why. That was the very first idea for this event, and we start putting it together around that principle of making mobility solutions based on hydrogen from renewable energy solutions. And I would give the floor to Hydrogen Europe, to the director of Hydrogen Europe, to do the last intervention. And after, I believe that our guests, our hosts, our leaders are open for questions from the floor. I would be glad of moderating it, and we would finish the event with perhaps some final words from the president of Médio Tejo board and And of course, we have to wish you a very nice trip back, mostly for the ones that are going to drive home in places like Castilla León. It's a little far, so if you please.
Hello. Oops. Okay. Hello everybody, I'm extremely pleased to be in Portugal today, and I will explain why after. But as Marcos was mentioning a few impressive figures about hydrogen, there is another one that we should think about, is that if you take electric mobility, being cars or bus, today 2/3 of them are in one country, China. And the Chinese government this month decided to stop subsidizing battery mobility and to shift its subsidy to fuel cells and hydrogen mobility. So it's worth thinking once about. So very quickly, who we are, Hydrogen Europe. We are the association representing the industry. We have a sister association representing the research organization dealing with hydrogen, and national association. You can see here that we have all the producers of hydrogen, or most of them, the one responsible for distributing hydrogen. We have most, if not all, of the fuel cell makers, being for transport or for energy application. And we have also a big number of end users in the energy sector. The top part is all the gas grid operators that have recently joined Hydrogen Europe. You have a big number of utilities, some oil and gas industry. You have, in transport, most of the car OEMs, and we start to have bus OEM and slowly truck OEM, and then we try to move towards shipbuilders. And we have a number of industry companies that needs to decarbonize that process, plus 16 national associations and 67 research centers. There is one big problem in this list. There is not yet any Portuguese entity. And I really hope that this day will help to solve that issue, because there is no reason why Portugal should be out of this. When you see the ambitions of Caetano, it's very impressive, and that could be a very big success story. When, as Marcos said, your potential in renewables is huge, both in solar and wind. And having a lot of renewable means that you have potentially a lot of hydrogen. So I really hope that one of the success of this day will be to have better relationship with the Portuguese stakeholder and our organization. So what do we do? This is simply how our office is organized, but that gives you also an idea of what we do. In the center, you have this innovation box, which is things. In fact, we are the counterpart of the Commission. And our role is to propose funding priorities that will then be supported with EU money. We have been doing that for 10 years in the FCG1 and then the FCG2, and now we are entering into discussion to the third program on hydrogen. And this is our role to propose priorities in this program. And then, since 2016, we realized that hydrogen is not only a research topic, it's actually a business topic, a political topic. So we need to have a full trade professional association, and that's why we have created a political part with a series of dedicated working groups, be it hydrogen in the gas grid, hydrogen in mobility, RED 2 means simply Renewable Energy Directive, so how to use hydrogen to integrate renewables, a maritime working group, and also looking for additional funding and financing opportunities. And then of course we do communication and policy and market intelligence. So, as representative of the sector at the European level, we try to build a positive political framework for hydrogen, and we do that in three ways. One is really to push for positive legislation and regulation. That's what we call our advocacy or lobbying work, if you want. We have also been working on removing all the legal barriers, the regulations which have not been there to promote hydrogen and therefore sometimes prevent the introduction of hydrogen. And we have also started now a new program which is called the Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Observatory that will monitor the markets, all the figures of sales in all European countries plus a few big international markets, and the same, all the policies that can support hydrogen into European countries, be it policies that are explicitly for hydrogen or policies that can include hydrogen, like when you push for zero-emission cars. Today, I will give you a quick overview of the European policies recently, very recently enacted that can support hydrogen. So you know this graph of the 7 roles of hydrogen helping to integrate renewable, which take the form of electricity, and helping to transport it, because it's very complicated to transport electricity in a cheap way, and helping to store electricity, because it's again very complicated to do it. And then helping to decarbonize and use, transport, but also a number of industry and building issues. Here it's a complex table, but it tries to give a map of the jungle of EU regulations that can impact hydrogen. So you can see a number of legislation and funding tools that relate to transport with the objective to reduce CO2, to reduce air pollution, or to integrate renewables. And then you have actually 5 directives: the Renewable Energy Directive, which I will describe a bit later, CO2 emission standards for cars, vans, trucks, the Clean Vehicle Directive, which is about procuring vehicles, and the last one, which is about deploying an infrastructure for alternative fuels, battery recharging, hydrogen refueling, and natural gas refueling. You have a number of funding tools, the FCHU, the successor of the FCHU, and something called IPSAIL, which I will mention later, and self-transport. And then there, hydrogen is considered as a fuel, pure, but also hydrogen-made fuel. Or hydrogen used in refineries, which is also to be taken into account as an early business case. We have the decarbonization of energy-intensive industries through the ETS emission trading system. But that generates a funding instrument, very interesting funding instrument that could be relevant for you, which is called the Innovation Fund. You have the question of gas and heating, how to decarbonize heating and the gas sector, and I will come to that in detail with, again, the Renewable Energy Directive, but more importantly, the future reform of the gas sector. And then you have a few things about energy storage. I cannot explain everything, but I will try to focus on about 1 or 2 interesting regulations. So I will try to say a few words on the Renewable Energy Directive, which impacts, you see, hydrogen in many different ways. This directive fixed a first objective, which is to have in Europe 32% of our main energy source, not only for electricity, of our global energy, coming from renewables. And it includes renewables used as electricity, renewable use in heating and cooling sector, as well as renewable use in the transport sector. And in the transport sector, which is a very complicated to decarbonize sector, there is a specific objective to reach 14% of renewables. You need to understand that this is not an obligation country by country, it's a pan-European obligation, and we will have to divide that obligation within member states. This will be done in national climate plan. Actually, you may not know, but your government submitted a national climate plan, and it is subject to revision. So you can exceed it there, you can revise it and comment it, because there is 1 year for the Commission and stakeholders to comment it. We are actually checking how much hydrogen is reflected into all these national plans. Just here, fuel suppliers in transport have the obligation to put 14% of renewables into their fuel. And they can do that as pure hydrogen. Hydrogen can be there as pure hydrogen that you put in a bus or in a car. It can be e-fuels, so fuels that you make by combining green hydrogen with something else. Or it can be hydrogen into refineries, because refineries, you don't know it maybe, but today there is a 100 billion existing hydrogen business today. And this is how hydrogen is used. 50% of it is used in refining. This is not clean hydrogen. This is hydrogen made from natural gas, but we need to replace this by green hydrogen. And actually, if refinery starts to replace grey hydrogen by green hydrogen, it's one way for them to comply with their obligation, and it's one way for us to reduce dramatically the cost of producing hydrogen, because it's such a big sector that they can push the price very low by enabling us to upscale the electrolyzer industry. This is not just science fiction. This is a project financed by the FCGU, which actually experiments that. This is a 10 megawatt electrolyzer used by Shell in one of its German refineries. And this is clearly something that can be replicated in the coming years. Now, this was about fumes. Before you put them into a car or a vehicle, then you have a series of regulations that are looking at what the car does, or the bus does, things like that. So, very briefly, for cars, it has been agreed that you have already a target for 2021, which is to reduce emission at 95 grams, which is quite a lot less than your current car, but you need to go 15% more and 37% more by 2030, and for van is 15% more emission reduction, 31% emission. Plus, there is an incentive to introduce at least 15% in 2025 and then at least 30% of ultra-low emission cars, which are not zero-emission cars, only it can be also up to 50 grams, so you might have certain hybrid that can go through it, but battery car and fuel cell car can count as part of this low-emission car. And the more zero-emission the car is, the better for benchmark. You have a similar process for trucks and for buses. You have another regulation which will be extremely important, because one of the main topics today has been buses. Actually, public procurement authority, and actually most buses are procured by public authorities, have very ambitious obligation in terms of procuring clean vehicles. So first question, what are the vehicles, clean vehicles? For cars and for trucks, they are defined as zero-emission vehicle. For bus, it can be zero-emission vehicle or natural gas vehicle. But when you see the targets, you see that for cars in Portugal, you will have, public authority will have to purchase quasi 30% of zero-emission vehicles. For bus, it is 33% before 2025 and 50% after 2025. There you can have natural gas if you want, but half of this fraction should be zero-emission. So you see the market for zero-emission bus and hydrogen bus and car is really being made compulsory by EU regulation. The only thing is that you have to make a choice between battery and fuel cells. And for truck, it's the same thing. It's less important because municipalities and public authorities buy not many trucks, but it also applies to garbage truck, which has been shown here. In a completely different sector, but that could be a game changer, we have the gas reform. So we will need, the Commission will reform the gas sector rules in 2021, when there was a new commissioner after the elections. They will change the market rule, but much more importantly, they will do what has been done for the electricity sector. In the electricity sector, we have started to decarbonize the content, so we have more and more zero-emission electricity within the grid, renewable electricity. And actually, the idea is to do the same thing in the gas grid. Because if you look at the strategy to decarbonize in 2050, you can no longer have a gas grid full of natural gas. It doesn't match. You need to close it and replace everything by electricity. Or you start to consider that you can have also carbon-free gases. And actually you have only two, carbon-neutral or carbon-free gas, is hydrogen or biogas. And biogas, there is a limited quantities. So that's really the big challenge that could change everything about hydrogen, is to start to have mechanism to push zero-emission gas, including hydrogen, into the gas grid, because there you might have feed-in tariff, or this kind of measure that help to introduce renewables into the electricity system, to do the same thing in the gas sector through hydrogen. This could be a game changer. It is not at all a set regulation. It's an idea of the Commission that we, of course, promote, and that will be the battle of the battle, if I can say, in the coming years. So I have other things to say, but I think that I have exhausted my time, and I think it's not too bad to stop with a few limited messages. Thank you.
Okay, just a little announcement. After the end of the session, we have a tasty coffee break just behind us, so don't look back because they are organizing it. Anyway, and for the members, this is important announcement, for the members of iTagos cluster, there is a very, very short meeting for a group picture after this event. So we go to another building and we make that group picture, and that's quite important because we may need it for a next proposal that is going to be September the 3rd under the cluster iTagos. So please, after the session, don't go away before we take the group picture. And now we could open the stage for questions from the floor for our hosts or guests. So we have Miguel Pombeiro, as I said, like the Prime Minister for this province. We have the President of the Energy Agency, Mobilidade 21, and I'm going to ask you a few words in the end just to finish. And of course, the last panelist, Director of Hydrogen Europe, the representative of Managing Authority, and the leader of the foundation that owns the museum. Sorry, I'm not totally sure about it, but Maria José Teixeira. So, please make questions. And if there is no questions, I'm going to... okay, you have one, great.
Okay, as we have some people that are representing somehow the region, I just would like to ask, how is the region facing this new challenge about hydrogen? I can see that it's quite welcome as the region is hosting this event, but what are the main steps that you visualize that can be taken in order to help support hydrogen in mobility?
Elsa, yeah, and I think feel free to answer in Portuguese. Politicians are allowed to speak in Portuguese, so that's...
Muito bem, muito boa tarde a todos. De alguma forma, dar aqui um breve enquadramento de qual é um bocadinho a perspectiva dos municípios da própria região em todo este processo, em toda esta ambição. É evidente que esta vontade que temos de dar passos seguros na descarbonização, de dar passos seguros ao nível da sustentabilidade, corporiza-se neste projeto como se corporiza em muitos outros projetos e de alguma forma, aliás, a ambição no fundo aqui da transição energética. E dizer-vos que esta transição energética para nós tem quase que um ponto prévio, um ponto inicial, que é o da própria eficiência energética. E é assim de facto que também encaramos este desafio da transição energética. Nós, no Pacto para o Desenvolvimento e Coesão Territorial, temos, neste âmbito específico da eficiência energética, 24 projetos aprovados, que estão previstos nesse pacto, com um valor de FEDER que supera os 4 milhões de euros e que, portanto, andam desde intervenções em piscinas municipais, desde intervenções em edifícios municipais também, e também projetos em termos de iluminação pública. E isto, de alguma forma, para dar conta que a eficiência energética é, se calhar, a fonte endógena que temos com maior abundância no nosso território. Para além disso, e naquilo que são no âmbito específico deste projeto, e como aqui foi já referido de manhã, nós temos um grupo de trabalho que é constituído pelos 2 politécnicos, o de Porto Alegre e o de Tomar. O pivô deste projeto tem sido aqui a Agência de Energia, e onde também, assim, portanto, da qual também faz parte e representa também aqui todo o interesse dos municípios neste processo. Dar conta de que temos uma proposta de programa de ação que tem várias componentes, desde uma componente ligada à educação, a concursos escolares, concursos para o ensino superior, uma outra componente de informação e de divulgação daquilo que é toda esta questão ligada ao hidrogénio, ao qual ainda de facto falta muita informação, e portanto, aliás, esta ação, o que hoje aqui se está a realizar, é uma parte justamente desse plano de ação. E depois estão algumas iniciativas concretas que estão inventariadas, que dependem muito também da oportunidade de financiamento, e na qual estamos a trabalhar, e portanto esperamos em breve poder fazer essa apresentação pública daquilo que é o Plano de Ação 2030 neste âmbito. Mas, portanto, dar-vos conta de que esta questão da sustentabilidade tem diversas variáveis. O projeto do hidrogénio é um deles, mas estamos envolvidos em projetos como pensar a questão da economia circular, ou pensar a questão florestal também de uma forma sustentável, enfim, a eficiência energética que já vos referi, e um conjunto de outras variáveis. Este é um projeto em que acreditamos e em que queremos posicionar o nosso território, portanto os nossos municípios e também as empresas da nossa região.
Obrigado. Going back to English, I don't know if there are some questions. I have one, but I will make it. Okay, the question is that I feel that when we talk about transition, we need a shift in culture. So there is a nexus between culture and transition, culture and sustainability. And this is about culture. And we are here talking about transition. And that was an idea from Maria José to bring to the museum to bring innovation to the museum, so to talk about innovation. And indeed, I'd like to ask you to comment about this idea of nexus between culture and sustainability, and culture and responding to these challenges, and which ideas do you have in mind in future to make the museum to be more and more alive, very much with this kind of events and ideas for a transition, and also to thank you very much to hosting the event in such a nice venue. Thank you.
Hello. Well, first of all, many years ago, we met each other for the first time, and we spoke about an idea of a railway museum in Portugal. So here is the museum, some years after of our conversation. And at that time, we spoke about that we would like to have a museum that preserves the past and show the past, but want to invest in the future. And to make this transition and this fusion, what is the past, what is the present now, will be the best some years from now. So what the museum wants to work is in the many forms of culture, and in our area is the transport culture. So we would like to have more forums like this in our museum, and to discuss the future of transportation for people and goods, and also all kinds of innovation, because a museum will be dead if only talks about past. And we are a very new museum. We opened in 2015 in May, so we are now, tomorrow is our anniversary, and we want to be a live museum, so we need to continue to bring this kind of events to our museum, and not all this kind of events, because here in this room we have steampunk events, we have opera, tango, and what you can think we have here. So many thanks to the organization for bringing this forum to our museum. Many thanks for all to visit us. We hope that you like it, our museum. And please make many posts in Facebook and all social networks and promote it, because it's not very easy to have a big museum like this one outside the big cities as Lisbon and Porto. So it's very hard to promote and to bring people here with small budget of money to have marketing and publicity, as you may know. So yes, be kind and show our museum to the world and to the Europe. And to close, we have outside, in the end, and after you have your coffee and cakes, we have a small train, our mini presidential train, and you are all invited to have a small travel inside the museum by train. It's not an hydrogen train, well, it's diesel, but if everyone in the room wants to, I don't know, to try a pilot project with a small train, hydrogen moved, be my guest. Thank you very much for being here.
Before the final words from the President of the Energy Agency, so Jacinto Lopes, I would ask a comment from Mr. Bernardo Campos, who is representing the President of Managing Authority for the Central Region of Portugal, who couldn't come up today, so I don't know if... Tem alguma coisa a dizer?
Bom, em primeiro lugar, uma boa tarde a todos. Eu peço imensa desculpa, vou falar na língua de Camões. Não é que eu não gosto de Shakespeare, mas de facto prefiro Camões. E então vou falar em português. Para dizer duas ou três, fazer algumas pequenas referências, que aliás, neste contexto, uma delas pelo menos é uma referência que eu já fiz no passado, que há uns tempos atrás, em Torres Vedras. E a referência é mais ou menos esta, é que, na verdade, nós não temos um problema de hidrogênio. Não existe. O que existe é um problema civilizacional. Qual é o problema civilizacional que nós temos? É que precisamos de energia ponto. Para nós funcionarmos enquanto sociedades, enquanto seres individuais, precisamos de energia ponto. E as técnicas e as tecnologias nós somos capazes de as construir, fomos capazes de as fazer no passado, não há nenhuma razão para não acreditar que nós consigamos fazer no futuro. E, portanto, desse ponto de vista, se eu posso dizer assim, embora o futuro a Deus pertença, tenho a ousadia de dizer que sou capaz de acreditar naquilo que são os humanos, no sentido de serem imaginativos o suficiente para terem, disporem, construírem, desenvolverem as tecnologias que realmente vão ser necessárias para assegurar aquilo, enfim, que ouvimos várias vezes, e eu só cá estive um bocado durante a tarde, mas que é para assegurar a mobilidade, para nós nos movermos, para que as coisas cheguem até nós e nós vamos até às coisas, e nós possamos ir até às coisas. Portanto, desse ponto de vista da tecnologia, eu sou claramente um otimista. Nós vamos ter soluções. Qual é o busilis da questão? O busilis da questão é um outro como é que nós, humanos, nos vamos comportar. Nos comportamos e nos vamos comportar. Porquê? Porque, eu vou pôr isto nestes termos. Do ponto de vista do comportamento dos humanos, nós mudamos muito. Aqui ao lado temos um elemento absolutamente esplendoroso, lindíssimo, que aqui a doutora Maria José já fez o favor de mostrar várias vezes. E, portanto, naquela época, isto andava, levava lá dentro o rei e a rainha, andava a carvão e E depois, seguramente, havia o povo que andava de carroças, a pé e tudo isso. Claro que fomos evoluindo, de tal forma fomos evoluindo, que hoje nem sequer nos passa para a cabeça que para ir fazer as compras ao hipermercado não possamos levar o nosso carro individual. Portanto, mudámos muito os nossos comportamentos. Do ponto de vista dessa história da mobilidade e da forma como nós nos movemos. E a questão é, estamos disponíveis no futuro para mudar esses comportamentos. E, portanto, o problema aqui é em que medida é que as técnicas que nós vamos sendo capazes de construir vão, de facto, mudar o modo como nós nos relacionamos com as coisas. E, neste caso, o modo como nós nos movemos e as energias e as formas de energia de que nós necessitamos para fazermos essa mesma mobilidade. Porque se estas alterações comportamentais, se quiserem, se esta noção da cultura, que foi o termo utilizado há pouco e que aqui a nossa colega Maria José Teixeira falava, se estas questões culturais não sofrerem também mudanças, então sim, provavelmente nós estaremos à beira de algum tipo de colapso. O que também não é mau, foi assim que nós vivemos no passado e há de ser assim que a gente está a viver no futuro. Vamos colapsando por aí fora e depois reerguemos, atenção, e depois reerguemos, que é essa noção de esperança que eu gostaria de deixar aqui. É que, apesar de tudo, nós vamos tendo alguma capacidade de nos reerguermos. É evidente que isto é apenas especulação. Porque se nós fôssemos capazes de ver o futuro, e portanto, visão para o futuro era o título disto, se nós fôssemos capazes de ver o futuro, era absolutamente trágico. Primeiro, não era futuro, era presente. Segundo, éramos capazes de ver a nossa própria morte. E isso, confesso-vos, que deveria ser a coisa mais absolutamente dramática que aconteceria a um humano, era ver a sua própria morte, saber quando é que isso ia acontecer. O que nós podemos é especular. E, felizmente, que o que vai acontecer é tudo, menos isto que eu vos disse. E, portanto, o futuro só pode ser um futuro feliz. Mas recordem-vos, o problema não são as técnicas. Isso nós resolveremos. O problema é o modo como nós nos relacionamos com essas técnicas e o modo como nós nos relacionamos uns com os outros. Ou seja, estamos ou não disponíveis para mudar. E o futuro seguramente será radioso.
Obrigado. There is no future without leadership. So that's my personal pleasure to invite to close the event the president of the board of the one that is perhaps the best, it's not the biggest, but that's perhaps the best Portuguese energy agency. So Mr. Jacinto Lopes, who is also mayor of one of the municipalities in this region.
Boa tarde a todos. Também vou falar em português porque apenas falo mal em inglês. Antes de mais, agradecer a presença de todos. Dizer-vos que na Médio Tejo 21 temos 10 anos de história. Existimos porque um conjunto de municípios e entidades e empresas acharam que precisavam de pensar o futuro em termos energéticos. Na altura, a preocupação principal seria reduzir consumos, otimizar consumos. É isso que temos vindo a fazer, mas o futuro espera muito mais de nós e nós temos muito mais para dar a estas câmaras e a estas entidades que connosco estão associadas e que recorrem aos nossos serviços. Temos ajudado de diversas maneiras, desde concursos para painéis solares, variadores de velocidade, nas piscinas, nos pavilhões, portanto, tudo o que é reduzir consumos tem sido o nosso objetivo. Na comunidade de Médio Tejo, enquanto Presidente de Câmara, definimos que queríamos ser uma zona pioneira, digamos assim, em Portugal, para a implementação do hidrogénio, porque reconhecemos todos que o hidrogénio será, eu pessoalmente acho que é mesmo, a energia do futuro. O hidrogénio está à nossa volta, está em todo lado, portanto é uma fonte fácil de conseguir obtê-la para ter hidrogénio, embora os processos para obter não sejam ainda os mais baratos nem os mais inócuos para nós humanos, para a natureza, mas acredito que estamos a trabalhar para conseguir ter hidrogénio mais barato e com menos impacto para a natureza, aproveitando, como já aqui foi hoje, energia por vezes se desperdiça durante a noite ou durante o dia, porque há picos de produção que não correspondem aos picos de consumo, portanto, e vai ser possível aproveitar essa energia para produzir hidrogénio. Tem a vantagem, como já também aqui foi dito, de ser armazenado, que é um dos grandes problemas das energias limpas, é que muitas vezes temos produção, mas não temos capacidade de armazenar, ou é extremamente caro armazenar energia. Portanto, acredito piamente que o hidrogénio será a nossa energia no futuro. No entanto, é um caminho que ainda vai demorar alguns anos, mas irá permitir, quiçá, salvar este planeta, salvar esta raça que nós somos, e que somos uma raça complicada, como já disse o Dr. Bernardo Campos. Temos uma ótima capacidade de autodestruição. Basta ver o que fizemos nos últimos 120 anos. Nos últimos 50 foi bem pior, mas nos últimos 120 anos, desde que iniciamos o processo intensivo de queima de combustíveis fósseis, o que temos feito ao planeta, e o planeta tem estado a devolver com juros tudo o que nós lhe fazemos. Portanto, ou temos capacidade de pôr a mão e mudar o nosso paradigma, reduzir drasticamente para zero, diria que será praticamente impossível, excepto se o petróleo vier mesmo a acabar, como dizem os pessimistas, mas reduzir fortemente o consumo de combustíveis de base do planeta Terra, digamos assim, retirados do planeta, porque sabemos que produzem carbono que irá dar cabo do nosso planeta. Portanto, o desafio é este, é conseguirmos agarrarmos todos. Queremos ser uma zona pioneira em Portugal no uso do H2. Iremos desenvolver os esforços todos, mas mesmo todos, para conseguir levar para a frente este nosso objetivo. E temos todos uma ideia muito presente para nós, enquanto Presidentes de Câmara, que o principal objetivo a conseguir é ter aqui na zona, na região, um posto, quer de produção, se não conseguimos ter produção, pelo menos um posto de armazenamento de hidrogénio, porque sem isso, acredito que nunca será fácil vir a implementar quer viaturas, quer outro tipo de veículos. Vimos hoje comboios, portanto, há barcos, portanto, há todo um caminho a fazer para o uso de hidrogénio, mas se não houver uma fonte de abastecimento, com certeza nunca será fácil implementar e massificar, que é o que se pretende, porque sem massificarmos o hidrogénio não conseguiremos cumprir os nossos objetivos. É isso que iremos lutar, tentar arranjar parceiros para que rapidamente, num objetivo, num prazo de meio dúzia de anos, conseguimos ter na região uma fonte de abastecimento de hidrogénio para que possamos depois ser promotores desta mudança que temos que fazer. Agradecer mais uma vez a vossa presença, aqueles que vieram de longe, que vieram compartilhar connosco as vossas experiências, o vosso saber. Agradecer-vos também e desejar-vos uma viagem segura a casa. Obrigado.
Thank you. The event is ended. Muito obrigado. Muchas gracias. Especialmente a nuestros socios españoles. Merci beaucoup à ceux qui ont venu de Bruxelles. Et bon, muito obrigado. Muito boa tarde.
Vai ser